Welcome back to Shine In and Out, the space where science meets soul. I am your host, Sammy Stoltz, and I'm here to share more of what the world needs, conversations that heal, inspire, and hopefully transform. Today, we're stepping into a world where color, sound, and subconscious merge to create deep transformation. My guest, Gina Marie Fustich, is the founder of Colorful Living and the visionary behind NeuroScenes and NeuroTheater, which are immersive, cinematic journeys that blend storytelling, sound, and subconscious repatterning. She's also the creator of the Colorful Clearing Method and the upcoming book, The Color Code. Gina's work draws from brain-body science, energy healing, and multisensory experiences to help people move through grief and step into their soul-aligned future. Today, we'll explore how she's helping people, including those with chronic conditions like MS, helping these people experience real shifts, sometimes just in one session. Let's jump right in. Hello, beautiful souls. I just wanted to take a quick pause in this conversation to invite you to something special. I'm building a community. Right now, it's starting as a group on Facebook, and it is called the Shine In and Out Community. And it's a space for like-minded people who are ready to grow, to be real and vulnerable, and to support one another in becoming healthier and happier every day. It's not about pretending we have it all figured out. It's about being vulnerable, sharing the wins and the struggles, and walking the journey together. My vision is that this community becomes more than just a group online, that we rethink social media and in-person interactions, and one day when you see the Shine In and Out symbol, whether it be a piece of jewelry, a sticker, a pin, or some form of attire, you'll know that you've spotted someone else who's ready and on the same path, open-hearted, like-minded, and committed to growth. So if you've been craving a space to share your story, get encouragement, and give encouragement, I'd love to see you there. Just search for the Shine In and Out Community on Facebook and join us. We can't wait to have you.
It's called Colorful Living, and I developed a clearing method that's called the Colorful Clearing Method, and inside it is a form of meditation that I like to describe as NeuroTheater, and it contains NeuroScenes that I lead you through that makes meditation actually enjoyable. How I got here, I'm a mom of 4. My kids are behind me. I have 3 boys and a girl. They range from 26 to down to 8, almost 18. And I was a hairstylist by trade, very empathetic, and I suffered for years with taking the emotions of other people on. I had a pretty not turbulent marriage, but emotionally toxic marriage, like many people do. And I could feel his energy when he would walk in the door. And for years, it just would weigh me down. And then, like everybody else, you're constantly, well, some people searching for, you're meant for more. There's something pulling at you. So I started exploring other businesses, and I started a jewelry business. And that went really, really well, got me used to talking in front of people, in front of the camera, and it kind of took off, was really, really successful. And you would think that she's made it. She has her dream car in the driveway. She has checked all the goals off the vision boards, and something still felt missing. It was so hard to explain. And that's when I started my path down exploring meditation. Through a Tony Robbins UPW, I was introduced into Master Co's world, and that's where my certifications up there lie. I'm certified in pranic healing, pranic psychotherapy, and pranic crystal healing. So the methods and scenes that I develop layer a little bit of the pranic healing world that I know with creative imagery and a little bit of sound and music. My son is a music producer, and he helps me create all of the scene music behind it, and we layer binaural tones and frequencies. So we really came up with what I think is a very unique experience for people. The feedback has been incredible. And so now I can honestly, I walked away from a very successful business to throw, all my eggs in one basket. I burned the boats, as Tony would say. And finally, I can say that it's a fulfilling, I know this was my calling. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Wow. I love that. Way to jump in. And the idea of meditation, I think, is so intimidating for so many people. And the way that you frame it, and give a guide that's not think of nothing, like that is so intimidating. And I know that so many people just avoid practicing because they know they're not going to be good at it. But when you're just focusing on music and color, you can't not be good at it. You can't not enjoy it. So I'm very excited to hear more about that and share it with everybody listening. You were mentioning pranic techniques. Could you explain a little bit about what prana is?
Okay, so prana is energy. That's actually the definition. It's the Sanskrit word for energy. And so pranic or pranic healing, either one, it is a way to use colored light energy, and you can, it's really textbook actually. There's a protocol for everything. Anybody can do it. That's the beautiful thing. If you learn a few techniques and you follow a protocol, it is really scientific with the methods. It's not, and I always like to clarify, I am not a healer. Anybody doing pranic healing, they're not healing you with their bodies or their energy. All pranic healing does is teach you how to channel energy. And anyone can be a channel. Anyone can be a channel as long as you just learn a few simple techniques. So I got introduced to it, and my son and I went together and got our certifications, and we've just kind of morphed a little bit of that, a little bit of this into this new business. And yeah, it's been quite amazing.
I'm so excited about all of this. I'm so glad we got the chance to meet here. And I mean, not claiming to be the healer, but you are teaching people how to heal themselves because, yes, they could keep coming back for another session and that's great business, right? But if you teach them is sustainable, they can teach others, and you're actually healing the world by teaching them to heal themselves. So I really appreciate that approach.
Well, thank you for that incredible compliment, because that is exactly where my heart has always been led. And there are a lot of men and women out there that suffer from anxiety and depression and so many traumatic events that might have happened in their lives leading up to now are still affecting them now with their moods and their energy levels, and everything is energy. And I wanted that something that was accessible to the masses, because not everybody does have the funds to get a pranic healing session, which they are
Mhm.
work, they're amazing. But when we can sit with our minds long enough to escape our reality and enter a state of relaxation that is heightened, that is when our subconscious and all of the programs that are running the show are going to fire in a different way based off the scene and imagery that we take you through. And your neurological pathways are healing
Yes.
themselves. And that's what makes also the work sustainable, as long as you keep the practice or the scenes in play.
Yeah, I mean, trauma reshapes neural pathways. We know that scientifically. And that prolonged stress, that chronic stress that all of us seem to be in nowadays keeps the brain's fear centers, like the amygdala, overactive and reduces connectivity for the areas that cover emotional regulation. So, of course, we're all not feeling like we're regulating quite well, you know? And giving the chance to do that is very special. Are you able to walk us through what happens during a NeuroTheater session?
Sure. Before I get to that, I just
Yeah,
wanted to touch on exactly what you said, because
please.
most people are walking around in fight or flight mode.
Mhm.
Our brain gets addicted to the chemicals that are the stress chemicals, the hormones, every single day, because we're not feeding our brain any new code. And the color code, the book that I would say halfway done at this point, is about reprogramming your brain. We get this code that comes in, and the code ends up being, these programs that are run in the background that we don't even really realize are running. And it's from the traumatic experiences. Yet when something happens in our daily life that triggers something similar or memory, but when you have these chemicals that are releasing every single day. If you go on vacation and you're telling yourself, I'm going to relax this week, a lot of times it takes you multiple days before you can get in the state. Finally, it's day 6 and day 7. You're like, now I feel like I can relax. Well, yes, because you just weaned yourself off of the addiction that your brain had to the chemicals, because that event that might have happened in the past triggers the response in our brain, and then the cortisol and the adrenaline and all of those chemicals start flooding in, and they're controlling the show. The prefrontal cortex, your, analytical brain, that's controlling the show, the monkey mind. And then you're
Yeah.
not really ever gaining that capability to respond rather than react. So in a
Mm,
neuroscene, we start with a few things. One, I have to get you into a state of relaxation. So that's going to open up with some breath work. So we're going to do some different pattern breathing techniques just to help you relax your body a little bit. We can't transition from busy day to turning our brains off. Like, that doesn't happen. And I love when you said, quiet your mind. Quieting your mind is like telling your heart to stop beating.
yeah.
It is virtually impossible. And I'm not saying it's not achievable, because through this work, eventually, it does calm the mind in new ways. But the objective is not to tell yourself to do something. The objective is to allow yourself to experience something. And so after the breath work, I do a sequence where we float you up out of your body. I think it's important to not necessarily try to experience meditation right here in the here and now. In the here and now, it is easier to get distracted by all of the things in our sensory. We can feel our bodies more, right? Because we're still in our bodies. And so if you right now took your sight away, your sound away, your taste away, your feeling away, all of it, there would be one thing that remains, and that's your consciousness. You would still be aware of your thoughts. That
Mm.
doesn't go away, even if all of your sensory is out of the way. So that's really kind of what we do. We try to almost float you up in a fun way where it doesn't feel scary, it feels fun. And this is not astral projection or traveling. This is simply allowing your mind to just float into a space and be entertained for a little bit, where then I open you up into a scene that is almost narrated. I like narrate it like a story, but in a relaxing voice. And we go through incredible different imagery, like a town that's filled with people that are wearing all kinds of colorful clothing. And we walk through different stores, and you're seeing imagery of flowers change color in real time, or a cupcake shop where there's, little magical ladies inside that, are inviting you to come in with their swirling eyes. And then we go through, though, and the main objective of this one scene that I'm talking about is we come to a store that's calling us in, where a woman behind the counter, she's beautiful and sparkly. She grabs elixirs from the shelf that are made of light, and these elixirs contain forgiveness, compassion, love, and then a magical light tail is made for you. That's this custom cocktail that you drink. However, before you drink it, you realize that that woman is you. You were that woman, because you already know exactly what you need to fill any emptiness inside. So this was a wholeness example of a scene, and it walks you through that. And it's just a beautiful kind of magical little kind of trip that you go on in your brain. And some of the reviews that we've been getting, I have the privilege to work with some MS patients through a summit that I was featured in. And some of these women and men with MS said that during the session, their legs felt lighter. And one woman, her legs had been vibrating, like a vibrational feeling, for years. And for the first time, she had freedom from that in one session. I do specialized grief work as well. And the workshop that I was just running with the one that I was just, one woman said she's been in a grief group for a year and got more out of one session than the entire grief group. So I'm realizing that the more and more people get to experience this, just incredible results that are going to be capable of in the future, with creating more scenes that have some actual paths that we can go down that are going to be more specialized for, let's say, just an anxiety scene or whatever. So I'm very excited about it.
That is incredible. Actually, when you were talking about removing yourself from the body and the sensory things, what came to my mind was people with chronic pain and how freeing that would be, because anytime that I've tried to do maybe a traditional transcendental meditation, sometimes the pain creeps in, and it's hard not to focus on that. Removing that responsibility to the body for a little bit, I think is so freeing and so powerful. And so many things that you said resonated. How you were saying that we're all addicted to the stress chemicals. Absolutely. And even if you get yourself unaddicted, if you're still firing the same neurons, they're going to wire together and you're going to have the same results. So you have to kind of change yourself and change your life at the same time. And like you said, you can be in a group of other people, and it does help you learn more about yourself through learning about others' experiences, but sitting with yourself is probably the most powerful tool that we have, because we do have all of the answers. And anybody that could look at you and say, "No, I don't know what I need," is somebody that hasn't sat there with themselves enough. And it's something that I don't see very many people doing nowadays. So I love that you're creating this colorful revolution of becoming one with yourself again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to sit with ourselves. Look at all the media and everything that's thrown our way. Our attention is constantly being refocused in incredible, massive amounts. I mean, you're scrolling, you're consuming, sometimes 50 images in a matter of 30 seconds, maybe even more. And so very rarely are we giving our brains a rest. And even for years, I struggled with sleep not feeling like it should,
Mhm.
insomnia, and waking up all the time. Since I have done meditation, that has changed. I have more rhythmic sleep cycles. My sleep is deeper. And I can even do a meditation in the middle of the day and it can mimic the results of a nap even better in my experience. But when you interrupt the normal brain flow, and how we were saying neurons that wire together, I have to give credit. That's my incredible teacher, Dr. Joe Dispenza. So
Love
he's the one.
him.
Yes, I went to one of his retreats last year. It was a week-long intensive and it was life-changing. It's where I saw this future, where I saw this method. And when I returned home as the person who created this. And I really feel
That's
through
amazing.
his work, I learned how to access a quantum energy space that is around us. And by kind of taking pranic healing and Dr. Joe and a little bit of Tony Robbins and then a lot of creativity and color and sparkle, that's where this whole NeuroTheater or colorful living has come from. It's kind of a marriage of all these beautiful teachers that I've been blessed to have guide me in this path. And then some of it came in dreams and meditations. When I write a scene, it takes me only minutes and it can be 22 pages handwritten long in a notebook on my porch, but it just comes to me and the words just flow. And when I look at that, you're in flow state, you're
Mhm.
connected. You're connected to your higher self. You're connected to creativity. You're connected to the beauty around you. And when you get into states like that, that's when the creativity, it's like it comes in massive amounts and it's very easy to access. So I have more outlined that I don't know. It may be more than I can ever record in a lifetime, but I'm going to try.
You can't keep up with the flow. That's a beautiful problem to have. And I've been there.
It is.
I'm constantly writing ideas in my notes that just pop up throughout the day, and I'm like, oh, I should make a video about that. But you're right. We have to make time for that too, the executive stuff. I actually have all of Dr. Joe's books on my shelf. Love his work and hoping to make it more mainstream and more approachable if possible. And when you were talking about everything is a mixture of all of these coaches and people that taught you and your curriculums, it made me think that you're also in this technique combining all of the sensory experiences, which is very powerful because you're interacting with all of your brain regions, your colors, the visual cortex and the limbic system, your sounds, the auditory and emotional centers, and then you have the story for language and imagination networks, and it almost makes it unequivocal that you're going to see changes because you're not just influencing one little thing about yourself, you're going all in all at once. And that's so
I-
awesome.
It's funny you describe it that way because I am an all-in type person. I've always been. I don't like so, and that is my inspiration behind it was to give women who are busy working moms, business owners, men and women, something that can be the biggest bang for their buck time-wise. We do not have an hour to meditate every day as a society. And if you're asking someone to do that, it's a very big ask. But if someone can spend 15 or 20 minutes a day having their brain really wire differently through this, I think it's going to be something that more and more people open up to. And exactly what you said, trying to normalize some of this is my biggest ambition. I want to be a bridge for people who might have their brain open to energy just a little bit, but when they experience a neuroscene and they feel the difference, then they're immediately hooked and it's not so out there anymore because it made them feel better. That's the hope and goals. So
Absolutely. So when you were talking about the colorful clearing method, is that the same process as those neuroscenes? Or if you could explain those
no.
too, then.
So the colorful clearing method is a combination of somatic breath work, journaling,
Mm,
and the neuroscene combined with movement. So again, biggest bang for your buck here. So in the hour experience, you are one, moving your body to open your energy centers, making the neuroscene effectively integrate at a higher level. So one, you're getting your brain ready to accept it. You're getting it receptive. Two, you're anchoring it in afterwards. And it's fun movement. This is not orchestrated choreography. We just put on some cool music that my son and I designed and we just move. Your cameras are off. You can do it online. We do in-person things in the Pittsburgh area as well, but you do move. The journaling sessions. Everything is intention. I want people coming into a session where they're ready to clear the
mm,
old and program for the new. So I want them to open their minds, write down, what is this session designed to do for you? What do you want it to get out? And then we put layered music that is certain binaural tones and frequencies. So more frequencies in the journaling, and it opens your brain. We've had people in our journaling sessions, in some of the in-person sessions, I had to look over at my son and I'm like, play it again, play it again. Like they're furiously writing and I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought 5 minutes would be plenty. And they're writing and writing and I'm like, they're getting stuff out. So I'm like, you can't shut that off. You need to
so
let that go.
powerful.
And and then one person in our reviews and comments said it was the music that made my brain open up and I didn't know I could get that much out on paper. So we lead you through this series of, and then we get into some somatic breath work. I don't get into really intense somatic breath work but we do bridge a tiny little introduction to it to really move so that when you do some deep breath work before a session or a scene, your body can relax easier. You got a little bit of the energy out. It's like taking your dog for a walk or letting him go to the park. You're letting him run a little bit so that he comes home and can finally relax. We got to do the same with our bodies. So then you're in the scene, and during the scene, the music is layered not only with the frequencies and tones, but my son layers pranic healing in some of our music. So I did create a special pain meditation that was for people with MS that had literally a chakra cleansing and energizing layer behind it. No one could hear it. It was silent. But remember, everything's intention and energy. It's just an imprint. That's like when someone walks in the room and you can feel that they're angry. You felt their anger first. You felt their
Yeah.
energy first, right? So everyone perceives energy, or you think of somebody and all of a sudden they call or text. That is energy. When my
My mom
son
says I
just,
call every time she starts talking about me.
well, well, absolutely with your children too. You're super connected, right? Energetically. Think about it. Even the umbilical cord, right? We're really super connected to our parents. So that happens a lot with mothers and children, but that's the session. You go through that. Then we do a journaling session because I want you to also be constantly writing, what do you want to create in your life? We're the creators. We're the colorful creators. If we want to create more color, we have to be intentional about it. So I also have times worked into my scenes where you bring up your creations and you're going to get to view them. And then we're going to get to charge them with some colors and make them more and absorb them, wrap them on you like a blanket and watch them absorb in. So there's so many different scenes that I walk people through when we do this work. But it's a beautiful experience of, again, the biggest bang for your buck. If you even just did that session 1 hour a week, you would see dramatic changes.
That is so exciting. I love what you do with the journaling because I have so many clients that are so scattered and they're not happy, but it's because they don't know what they want. And there's no way to get what you want out of something unless you predefine it and take the time to figure it out. And forcing yourself to sit with a pen is some of the most powerful exercises you can do. I'm the same way. I've been writing a book myself, and whenever I get the urge to sit, it's like 22 pages, typed out. You just flow. So providing that opportunity for people to flow is so powerful. And I love the intentional aspect. I think we should all be living more intentionally. And a thought that came to my mind is that some people have trouble visually thinking. What if somebody came to you and said, I would love to do this work, but I'm intimidated because I've never really been able to visualize? What would you say to them?
So I've had that already happen.
Okay.
I absolutely know. So there's one thing I tell them, first of all, is I tell them to just imagine that they're listening to a story. They don't have to do anything, and the energy still transfers. But what we have also found is that some of this is so powerful that people are kind of they think they're falling asleep. It's really not falling asleep. It's getting into kind of a state of relaxation that's so deep that your mind is out of the way for a little bit. And then you just feel like you took a nap and you gently woke up, but all of it still works and it still comes across. So it just becomes allowing your experience to be whatever it is and not forcing it. Like there isn't any way to do this wrong is
That's
basically the
huge.
bottom line.
That's huge. I have fallen asleep during meditation before and scalded myself for it. And I don't know if at that point it's still effective because I am just legitimately sleeping. But to have stuff in the background, I think also takes away that responsibility of, have to stay awake, have to do this. And you can just let go and only do that one thing that you came here to do, and that's listen intentionally. And I love that freedom. So for people wondering, why should I do this? What changes could it make? What does it look like in the daily life of somebody that you've worked with from before to after? How
So
stark is it?
we have seen results in a matter of a few days where someone they have rapid thoughts when they wake up. This one woman that came to me on day 4 of working with me 3 days in a row prior, she said her mind was calm in the morning for the first time that she can remember. And she felt like she didn't even know what to do with herself because her mind was so calm. You can experience shifts within one session. But of course, the more you do it, the more it's going to compound. And that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to allow your body and mind to relax to the point where it gets used to relaxing again. Because most people, we don't really fully relax ever.
Mhm.
We're walking around from the moment we get up, we're looking at our phones, we're running, we're grabbing the coffee, we're rushing to get the kids out of the door, and we're just going, push, push, push. And then we're reacting all day long. And we don't, even if we get to the end of the day and we lay down. And that's why I do recommend doing a lot of this work in the morning or after when you need to do this when you do have a good amount of energy. If you tried to put these scenes on right before bed, unless you want it, it will help you fall asleep. You could totally do a sleep one. But if you want to experience it fully, there is a difference between falling asleep and the state I was talking to about. So yes, when you fall asleep and the meditation ends and you're still sleeping and then it's like 30 minutes, an hour later and you wake up and you're like, crap, you fell asleep. And I can't say that the energy would totally work, but it got you asleep. So there's a lot of people that struggle falling asleep. And just turning on a meditation can be an easy way to fall asleep. So just that simply
I believe
alone.
there's some subliminal stuff too, to listen to stuff even while you are sleeping all night. Sometimes people
Oh,
do that.
definitely. Definitely. Well, there's also tracks that are designed to help keep you asleep, and those are in the tones and frequency territory. But when you experience a meditative state where you're waking up at the end, when I say, come back to me, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and you're like, oh, whoa, we're back already. That's the state where your body is almost in between wakefulness and sleep. And it's a cool, really middle state to experience. And when you're in that state, that's when your brain can do the most amount of effective rewiring.
It makes me wonder about the brain waves. You know how Dr. Joe studied people's brain waves and they were getting into theta and delta. I would love to hook people up and just watch it happen. That is
I
so cool.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that eventually, well, I know it will happen an event like, but the sooner the better for me because I'd love to see what's going on. Like, wow, because the results are already there. The results are there. I know that, everyone is telling me about them. So it's absolutely doing what I think it's doing to their brain.
Yeah.
It just really cool to see it.
Oh
And I
yeah.
can't wait because I think I'm going to ask for the first few images because they're going to be color, right? Because it's when you look at an MRI image or you can see, and I'm going to save them and I'm going to make a collage of pictures out of them.
Oh,
And I can't show you over here, but I have brain curtains in my basement. They are watercolor brain. It's a big brain. Both half
I
of the brain
love
is on the
that.
thing. And I've had them down here for probably 4 years, maybe 5 years. I've been obsessed with the human mind, psychology. And when you were throwing out like hippocampus, like amygdala, I'm like, she's speaking my language. I
Hey,
can
it's
just,
my fellow
yeah,
neuroscientista.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I've read like psychology papers and medical studies for fun. I don't have a degree. I am not a doctor. I am not a neurologist. The only thing I can say is I've used this work myself. It's worked on me. I've studied many, many different modalities and have just created something that I think is a beautiful blend that feels good. And I'm hoping that eventually my life goal is to make meditation almost addictive in a way where you can't wait to do it. That's the biggest, the biggest. I want you to get addicted to the good chemicals, not
Yes.
bad ones. And I want you to be able to produce them naturally without having to grab the pills and, the alcohol and all that stuff. So that's my main goal.
Agreed. That is a very, very important goal for so many people. I would love to see that. So you were talking about how, especially when you were a hairstylist, and I know even just the, theme of that is that people see it as therapy and they kind of dump on their hairstylist. I would love to understand how you personally kept your own energy aligned while also holding space for other people's transformations.
So that's the big thing. For 20 years, I did not. And for
I'm
those
working
20
on
years,
it.
they were at times, very dark. So having people unload a lot. So depending on whatever career, if you're in any career with any public interaction, you're absorbing a lot of people's energy anyway. And so I suffered with major anxiety and depressive episodes for years. I was on all the anxiety meds for a solid 20 years. And I even reflect on a really, really dark time where I lived in my home and slept on a recliner for 9 years because I was trapped in a marriage that, we lived as roommates in my house. And, I would go to work. I loved doing hair, but I would come home if one person or one client would tell me that, her sister has cancer or this happened to so and so. And it was really the cancer thing for a lot of time. I had hypochondriac. I would go to the list with a doctor's, for a million questions. I had all these autoimmune disorders at the time too. So I was feeding into this narrative being told by these doctors that I had all this stuff and I was just going along for the ride. I'm like, well, I have lupus and I have fibromyalgia and I have this. And then I got in this pattern of kind of just accepting pain and living it. And finally, there was this turning point after so many years where I just said, this can't be it. I had this feeling I knew. And that's when I started to just look for other ways to make myself feel better rather than I literally one point was on 8 medications a day. And I haven't taken any medication in the last 4 years besides Tylenol and occasional antibiotic. Like that is it. But I've just kept experimenting. That's why everything that I run through, it's the pieces that worked for me, but everybody's color code is going to be unique. So in my teachings, I like to expose people to everything and have you find your unique code. But exposing you to techniques in the colorful clearing method is going to give you the most effective code. But there's so many other codes like dancing and music and art
Yeah.
and so many things to bring that color back in your own life on your own.
Oh, yeah. And incorporating those practical exercises too, it becomes experiential learning, and you're much more likely to stick with that than just passively reading a book or an article, if you will. One of the biggest things that I forgot to mention is how you incorporate movement. I think that is spectacular. I even notice, I get this angsty feeling inside, and the only way I can get rid of it is going for a walk or doing some form of exercise, going to the gym. So absolutely, I think so many of us pack our days full, don't make time for movement. We're sitting at a desk all day or doing whatever we do. And of course you can't sleep. I know very well when I don't exercise, I don't sleep as well. And so I have a feeling that my color code would have a lot to do with movement.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, emotion is energy in motion. So if you think of it like that, and I believe that was Tony Robbins that said it, but I think he got it off of Jim Rohn possibly. But that specific line tells us that the emotions move, but if we're not moving, the emotions get stuck. So if you have that pit in your stomach, that knot in your stomach, that ball in your throat, that tightness in your chest, that pressure in your head, the tension in your neck, that is where the energy is living and it is stuck. And one of the only ways to move it is to move. So we have to allow our energy bodies a way to kind of unclog the channels and let that energy flow again. And that's why you can, especially if you exercise continually and consistently, then if you stop, you feel yourself building up with a pent up energy. And it is, you are so correct, not a necessarily common thing to do anymore is to move. And a lot of us look at it now, at least before COVID, we were going out of our homes, we were going into offices. For a huge amount of the population, we're not even leaving our homes anymore. We're working remotely. So it was already an issue before COVID. It's even a larger issue now.
That is so true. Another thing that you talked about was your journey with these chronic autoimmune disorder diagnoses. And I went through a period of extreme burnout and was subsequently diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. And I would love to hear about how you changed your perspective on things, and whether are you released from the pain at this point?
So my blood work shows no evidence of any autoimmune diseases, which the doctor looked at me and said, I can't tell you why. Like he didn't have an answer. And it was a blood panel that was 13, I can't remember. I want to say between 13 and 15 tubes of blood were taken. It was sent out. It took almost a month to get back. I had to sign like release papers because it's one of the most extensive autoimmune blood work panels you can have done. And I'm blessed to have one of the world's leading autoimmune institutes in Pittsburgh. It's the Autoimmune Institute, West Penn Institute of Anyway, it's really good. Susan Manji, she is on national news stations as a medical correspondent, and I've been able to actually see her in person. And it was an incredible journey to have with that practice. I still go once a year. I still get my labs. But in the beginning, I listened and I did all of the things. You will never hear me say not to follow Western medicine. I believe in it fully. I believe it has its place. I believe, though, in layering
Yes.
Eastern, natural with Western. Let them marry.
Yes.
Find what's making you feel good. Don't allow someone to tell you what's going to make you feel good. You can try it, and if it doesn't work, don't just accept it. Keep trying. So what ended up being the shift a lot for me is I discovered the autoimmune protocol diet. It was an
Mm.
extremely difficult diet to stay on. When you research it, you will see you are completely eliminating anti-inflammatory foods. You're eliminating gluten, you're eliminating dairy, you're eliminating coffee, you're eliminating sugar, your white sugar, and so yes, it is a little bit more difficult. I kind of adapt, I think a little easier for me. I still stuck with most of it, but when I followed that diet for a prolonged period of time, that's when I started to see, well, wow, I feel my joints don't hurt as much. I feel better. And then the more I did meditations and then pranic healing things, it started to really change. I started to feel better. I started to experiment getting off some of these medications with my doctor's help. I went through the weaning process with the help of medical professionals. They were on board with letting me try. So have conversations, open it up. There are a lot of doctors, and if you find one that's not on board with exploring, then I switched. I had one doctor that I knew. I just couldn't see that doctor anymore. He was pushing medication too much for my taste. And I went to my primary care and I said, I don't want to go back to him. We need to find a doctor that's going to help me the opposite, get off, not keep adding meds. I want to get
Yeah.
off some of these. And he found me a different specialist at the time who worked with me in a different way. So it's about that having that open communication and kind of taking your own power back in that department. And I think that's what led, along with a lot of mindset work. When you read the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself or
Yeah.
Supernatural, you have to adopt the mindset of a person that's not living with it anymore. And you almost have to adopt that identity and reality before you're even living it, which makes it even harder, but
And the gratitude.
you have to be happy for the outcome before it is. Dr. Joe, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. I was getting my nails done today, and literally I closed my eyes, and probably for 5 full minutes, all I did was say things over in my head that I was grateful for and feel the gratitude for things. It's about incorporating moments in your day where you can infuse gratitude with intention. That is a secret sauce that will change things in your life so fast.
That is so true. Even just incorporating moments of awe, like I could be on my work lunch and a lizard comes closer to me instead of running away, and I'm like so excited about that. Like, and that made my day. Like those small moments that you can appreciate that you have anyway, but if you take that extra moment or you take that extra time to express that gratitude, even in your own mind, it's so powerful. And I loved what you said about Eastern and Western medicine. That is what I'm all about. I want science and soul blended together because that's where I think that the real healing happens. You can have concrete science of what works, but there's also obviously energy going on that we have figured out over many, many years how to handle it. Well, if you're anything like me, you have a cabinet full of pills that you told yourself you were going to take every day to make your body happy and be super healthy. And inevitably, you get sick of taking so many pills and avoid them altogether. So I'm done with that BS. And that's why I created BioSync, where the only BS is biological synchronicity. The idea is simple. It's one morning drink and one before bed. And with those two, you've given your body everything that it needs to reset, refuel, and thrive. The morning biosync is designed to wake up your biology, not just your brain, and it supports your mitochondria. It works well with your cortisol clock, with nutrients that enhance focus, stabilize blood sugar, and fight inflammation. So you start the day with clean, steady energy. And the nighttime biosync is the counterbalance. Instead of stimulation, it works with your nervous system to bring cortisol down, to regulate circadian rhythms, and support deep restorative sleep. There are adaptogens to calm stress, minerals to replenish what your body used throughout the day, and gentle botanicals to guide you into recovery mode so that you wake up actually restored. Most wellness routines are complicated with dozens of supplements and rituals. BioSync was built to be the opposite. One drink in the morning, one at night, with everything you need and nothing that you don't. I spent so many years trying to find the perfect solution, the perfect drink that had it all. But you have a greens drink, you have a protein drink, and you have a meal replacement drink, but never all of the above. So here I bring to you BioSync in 2 simple rituals that keep your body aligned. Coming soon. And so when you're helping people, like you just had your, not a seminar, but your workshop
Yes.
with those people, I'm sure you had many extreme moments and revelations amongst the attendees.
Some people had never meditated before, and I always like working with people of all experience levels. And so the feedback becomes so varied, which is so fun for me. But yes, it was a 5-day workshop. It was 2 different themes of sessions, and it went for 10 solid hours. I think this thing that surprised me the most is after the very first sessions, I had people saying, I want the 6-week session. Like I want the full
Oh,
thing. I was leading them into an offer to work with me in a deeper capacity for 6 weeks. And there were people after the first session saying, okay, where do I pay? And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. Okay. And then because I'm still new to this. So even at the time that this airs, and if you're watching, my website might not be complete, but I do have a Facebook page. I do mini scenes and meditations on there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Sometimes life gets in the way, and I'm not. Last week, I wasn't even on because of the workshop. So I take the feedback and then I just continue to run with it through these sessions. And so my workshop morphed as the week went on. I go in with a plan. Usually the plan gets chucked out the window.
yeah.
And I develop some of these scenes based off the people that I'm working with, but it's all levels. I had people that have never meditated before go through a 15 to 20-minute meditation and say it flew by and they didn't want to come back. So to me, that said, wow,
That's
like,
glowing review. Yeah.
yes, because I know how difficult meditation can be. I've been actively meditating in many different styles. I'm not certified, initiated into Kriya Yoga, which is Yoginanda, the autobiography of a yogi. That's the lineage of meditation that is done
Got that one too.
in that. Yes, that's a hard read, man. That's a hard read. And I had the audiobook and the regular book going through both at the same time. But I have that, have done Dr. Joe's style, have done Master Ko's style, and many, many more, where I think I was able to try. I went to a Buddhist temple for a while, just trying it out and just to experience some of it.
Wow.
And so when you take all these forms of meditation, I knew the ones that were not feeling good. I knew the ones that are in crazy positions and you're sitting in lotus style. I have a knee problem. Like I was a gymnast. I'm not sitting in some crazy, we cannot make this uncomfortable or people won't do it. So you have to make it comfortable. You have to make it easy. And that's what I think I unlocked a way
Yes.
for people to just be comfortable. You don't have to be in downward facing dog doing crazy stuff. Just be comfortable and let your mind have a little bit of fun for a little bit.
You know what? You're like an enzyme because you're lowering the activation energy of the meditation itself so that people can enter in a faster and easier way. So we love a good catalyst. Catalyst for change. Gina Marie.
Thank you.
And I loved how you were saying that you can have a plan and then sometimes it all falls away as soon as you start. I totally used to be the hugest planner ever and planned for every single possibility and every conversation and how it could go and lost sleep over it. And as I've lived, I've noticed that it rarely goes in a predictable way and it always turns out just fine, if not better than I had hoped. So now I just embrace that. Of course, do my preparations and have my background, but I do prepare questions, but I think I've only asked 2 of them because so many things came up for me while you were speaking. And I think that's how it's meant to go anyway, to follow the flow of things.
And you're absolutely right with that. And it's not an easy thing to do. So when we're talking about that, you and I understand that because we have gotten to the point where
Oh,
we've
yeah.
learned, we tried to do it the push way, the organized way. There's a lot of people still stuck in that state. The reason why you are able to do what you're saying and let that flexibility happen now and go with the flow more, the saying, is because of the time you have spent doing the work. You've done the
Yeah,
work. You've
100%.
meditated. You've done this work. And so this is possible. What we're talking about does exist, but it doesn't just happen because you want it to happen. It's that bridge. It's the
You
taking
have
the
to
time to
build.
learn.
Yeah.
You do, but it's a beautiful state because I ran just the same as you for a lot of years, going with planning for every scenario. And I think the biggest lesson is so many people are either dwelling in the past or worried about the future. And even if you're planning a
Yes.
workshop, you're worrying about the future. You're missing that precious present that is so hard to sink into and fully embody. And that's what doing this work over time makes that easier. That's all. Easier.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It definitely took a lot of building trust with myself, like having evidence time after time that every single time I had a concern, every single time it turned out great. And just analyzing that, like most people, they don't look back to the time before the event and how they felt about it and compare it to how they felt after. So that has been a great tool for me as just a naturally anxious person. I'm so different than I used to be because anytime I'm anxious, I just remember last time I felt this way, I came out on top and it was wonderful. So I'm just going to trust myself this time. So I'm hoping that we can get more people to that place for sure. I guess, yeah, so we'll get to wrapping up, but I would love to hear one, a little more about your book that you're currently writing, and two, if you have any big takeaways that you're here to share with the world and people are listening and here's your chance to just let it all out.
Got it. So the color code is a series of codes, and it combines stories with from my life and then the lives of some other people that I've worked with or have just come across. And it kind of flows into the forgiveness code is one code. And so there's
Mm,
a few different codes that I feel embody the areas that we have to really take the time to go into to learn your unique code, your unique color code. So there's the forgiveness code, there's a creation code, because you have to actively create some of the things that you want in your life. And that takes intention and technique. I know the word manifestation is used. I feel like I like to consider my version materialization because as
nice.
you can like see behind me, um, I teach people to create a colorful corner in their house somewhere. It can be a shelf, it can be somewhere, but we need to bring items into the 3D world that we want to represent what we're trying to create or call in. We need physical representation to align our energies with that, what we're trying to achieve. And then there's other codes, the awakening code. That's becoming aware to all of this. That's
Mm,
learning that our consciousness, say our colorful consciousness is here and our not so colorful subconscious is in our brains, right? And so it's almost like dual brain theory. And we spend so much time here. We need to quiet and access here. That's why I have the float in most of my scenes, because I want you to lift up, access this, because this is where the color is. And eventually you connect the two. And that's when a lot of the old programs become, they're never really deleted, but imagine them in this like file room on your computer that just lives way in the back. It's not going to affect you anymore, but it's there. But it's not running active code. And that's really the entire book flows through the analogy. Like when I talk about chords, I'll have an image in there that is looking like you have USB ports all over you and people have plugged into you because they're draining your energy and you don't even really know it. So unless you unplug and really seal up that cord so that that connection, so they can't plug into you again, you're realizing it helps you realize all the different areas where you might be leaking energy, where you can gain more energy. And it uses a beautiful analogy like when we're sleeping, our brains are updating as the software. You need to sleep. You need to have the new codes installed at night. And that's what happens when we sleep. So the whole book flows with an analogy that I think is going to make sense to people,
yeah.
allow them to discover through some of the prompts. And there's going to be scenes that'll be free with the purchase, and people will be able to hopefully by the end discover their unique color code and have an actionable plan to
Yeah.
utilize to bring the color back.
That's incredible. You know what? When you were talking about the chords and the unplugging, it really resonated with me because in the last year or so, I was having trouble letting go of somebody that I knew I needed to let go of. And I kept saying, really feels like there's a string connecting our soul and they keep tugging on it. And with their negative energy, or, that was draining me. I guess negative energy pulls your energy away from you toward the negative end of the current. So that's a really great metaphor. And then I loved the code of forgiveness. I actually just did an episode talking about the science of forgiveness and how powerful it is. And so that's been at the forefront of my mind. And that comes out next week. So I'll share it with you so you can see
Oh,
that
I'd
too.
love to watch it. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just, I think when everybody says forgiveness, their first thought goes to forgiveness to other people. It is
Yes.
most of the work is forgiveness of ourselves. Most of the work, because we're beating ourselves up. And I'm after the camera's off, I'm going to give you a thing to do for your cord that you still have feel, because there is such truth to that. So know that, especially with a strong soul connection, somebody, and we all know what those are. Those are people that you meet, that you might have an instant knowing, that you might feel like you've known forever. That's a strong soul connection. And those are harder. Those cords become harder, and they can reattach when you could want to will it, to know, they're not right for you. You're wanting
Yeah.
to try it, and you're just saying, okay, I'm done this time. And then all of a sudden, something reminds you of them or whatever. And just you bringing up the emotion of sinking back into the, like, or whatever, or a thought, or maybe they're not that bad, or, and then it's this war in your brain. And
Well,
that's really all it takes for that to come right back. And that is when I say that's someone who is lowering your vibrational frequency and anchoring
wow.
you to a past version. In order to elevate, to get to the next level, we have to release the sandbags, and it's not always easy. So we might have to cut one and then another and then another. But when you finally do all the work and you get to that last sandbag, it is a feeling of freedom that takes you from here to here, and you got it all. Like, there's no question when you've done enough work around a connection like that, that takes you, like you got to the root, you got to
Yeah.
the source.
I
So yeah.
love it. It's like you're an electron trying to get to the next level. You finally get enough energy and you can jump right up. So I that really resonated with me, and it's something that I need to do because I have very much trouble letting go of people. So yes, I would love to talk more about that. There was one other thing that came to my mind when you were speaking, and just when I saw all of your colors. When I was younger, was tie-dye all the time. I bought white shoes and I would Sharpie them. I Sharpied my white backpack as well. And I think my original username on social media was Neon Queen. So,
Yeah.
so I'm a color lover too, but I don't know if you know about color theory and stuff like that, but as I've grown older, I've been more drawn to more muted colors. And I don't know if that's like a block or if it does make me feel more calm to be around muted colors. So I don't know if that's the idea or what, but
So colors contain frequency, and that's why they're so powerful. So when we look at our youth and we look at the emotion or feelings that a color used to make us feel, it's usually evident of what was going on in our life at the time. And think about the biggest phrase that everybody says as children. Most of the time, a child's introduction questions, one of the most frequent ones is, what's your favorite color? Mine is whatever,
yay.
right? So this is way in our first ability to communicate with other
That's so
humans.
true.
We're wanting to know what their favorite color is. And we lose track and we lose connection with it. Some of us, not all of us. Now, fast forward when the colors become muted, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, they're creating, but a lot of the times you're leaning towards a muted color because you're trying to recreate the emotion of calm. Because sometimes you want to come home and relax in an oasis. So we're
Mhm.
trying to have our physical environment induce the calm state by the visual perception of the color around us. However, I believe that everybody does have a version of themselves that embraces a little more of the brighter tones once they don't need to rely so heavily on the power of them in their environment. If we can get some of the stress out of here, we feel a more draw toward, what? Because when I do my in-person sessions, everybody comes dressed in their favorite color. Like, I don't want gray out in my audience. I'm not looking out and seeing. And when I host my events and retreats, I don't want to see beige. I don't want to see gray. I don't want to see white. I don't want to see black. So you come in any other color you want, but I want to look out at a sea of hues. It can be light
That's
pink, it can be
beautiful.
lilac, but I want to see that and I want us to feel it. I want people to connect with a color that makes them feel. And that's why there's so much color embedded into the scenes, because even though it's just a visual cue, it's a visual cue that's actually doing something in our brain, even if we're cognizant or conscious of it or not. That's my take
Awesome.
on your muted.
Yeah, I
I
think
have a
that's so
feeling
true.
I have a feeling your brand's gonna morph to a little more vibrancy coming up. I don't know.
I
It's
think
not.
so. I think so.
I think you're
I'm gonna
gonna have.
cut
Yep.
the sandbags off. I'm gonna have more energy and excitement, and my
I
colors will
think
have to
so.
match.
I
That's
am. I'm
awesome.
telling you.
You're so
I
right.
think that's coming. That's the next elevated level, right? And that's what we're always doing. We're always transitioning and transforming. I have a free guide that's coming out in a few weeks called Dragonflies Dance Around Me. You can see
Oh,
back here. I love dragonflies. And this is one of my quotes. It's, "You're never too old to transform your life into something wildly colorful." And when we go through these life transitions, it's about constantly rediscovering who we are on the other side of that transition. Because if it's a relationship ending, a friendship ending, a job loss, a move, the birth of a child, getting married, grief, losing a loved one, there's so many life transitions that we go through. Well, every time we're met with one of those, we have to rediscover and relearn what's our new color code in this new reality,
mm.
because we're constantly changing realities as life goes on. And we're never taking the time to allow ourselves the pause, the discovery phase, and the integration period to really get to know this new version of ourselves. So that'll be a freebie that will be available way before the color code is done. And hopefully even just a little bit of insight in that. I want it to be where you can flip to a chapter. If you're going through a divorce, just read that one. If you just had a baby, read this one. If you're having multiple kids, and read
Yeah.
this one, and or marriage, or single and dating again. There's a transition there. That was a big one for me at over
Huge.
age 40, entering the dating scene again. So it's just going to be all of the transitions that I've gone through in my life and how I deal with them now versus how I dealt with them back then. And hopefully giving people a little bit of insight on how they can move through them with a little more softness, a little more ease, and a little more color.
I love that. It's similar. The book that I'm writing is called As I Go, and it was originally for my
Love it.
children, like the things that I've learned and humanizing, not knowing what you're doing, all of these things. And I wanted to have that for my kids. But then it was like, everybody needs this. And so it
Absolutely.
sounds like what you're doing is something similar, like you're giving a guide of the things that you've experienced and you've learned, and you're helping people through those times. And people can go back to the book again and again as they go through those transitions. So it's not just a one read type of thing. It's a powerful life partner even to go
I
through it
love
with
that.
you.
I love So, and hopefully it will be. And we all have stories to share. And that's one of the things I love to empower people with. And I guess that's what I'll leave people with my wrap up, is that we all have stories, and we all have the ability, no matter what age we are, to try to tap into a level of happiness that is our definition of happiness and not someone else's. We are programmed, again, the programs. We're programmed from the media. We're programmed from our churches, our religions. And you'll never hear me tout a religion. I tap into a universal energy source. You put the label on it, not me. It's like plugging yourself into the outlet. Your mind is the greatest computer on earth, but it still needs a power source. Yes, there's Wi-Fi around, and that is the energy field that we do tap into. That my Wi-Fi analogy is the quantum energy field. We're going to access the Wi-Fi. We're going to get our downloads from the cloud, and we're going to bring them in, but we have to have our source of energy. And that main source, that main 3-prong plug, or mega charger, right? That is what is feeding us. Into that will align you with the answers to discover what your happiness looks like. And you are never too old to try to pursue a level of happiness that is even greater than you could ever imagine. And it's possible for every person. It doesn't
Never
matter
too
what
late.
you've been through. It is never too late to try something new. Don't think it's just you have to settle, because that is the furthest thing from the truth. And all of the answers you're searching for or you're reaching for, they're all in here. They're all in here. And this is where you discover them. It's getting inside and letting layers and layers and layers and deleting code and letting things out, that it becomes more clear.
You
And
gotta
then
update the system.
you got to update the system. Actually, sometimes I said down the road, I know one of my talks for when I do a public speaking one will be, are you ready to hit factory reset on your life? And that's when you can say, I'm here it ends today. I'm going to try something different tomorrow, or I'm going to try something different today. And that's when you constantly, then you've moved, you've shifted, you've declared to the universe, you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you want a different result. And when you declare something like that, watch how things change around you, because that's when stuff starts aligning into your path, that all of a sudden you saw something or you're listening to this, and then tomorrow you're going to hear something else that's going to confirm what we say here. And then 3 days later, you're going to be like, oh, I heard Samantha say that. And then it's going to click. And that is the universe aligning you with the answers, because life is always happening for you, not to you. Again, the great Tony Robbins. And when you can really adopt that and start to even look at the pain in a different light, it's when the answers become clearer and clearer and clearer.
So beautifully said. I won't even add anything to it. I want it to be just about that. So thank you so much, Gina. It's been such a pleasure. And I really hope to stay in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm sure you'll have all the links to everywhere. But again,
Yes,
bear
of
with
course.
me with the tech. You will see, like, I kid you not, the workshop that I just worked on, everybody joined and it had my name all over the screen. All these people started, and I'm like, oh, I registered for my own workshop and then sent them my registration link because I led them through a landing page and not the Zoom thing. And I'm like, I just see Gina. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? And it was so funny. So the tech part for me is a work in progress. But I promise if you at least follow on Facebook and TikTok and those places, you'll be able to keep up with the stuff as it comes.
Of course. That's hilarious. We're
It was
learning
funny.
as we go, as with
That's what's
everything.
happening right now. This is infancy stages. This is a new baby I just birthed, and that's what's happening now.
Well, we're going to raise it well. Thank you again, Gina.
Thanks so much, Samantha, for having me.
Gina, thank you so much for sharing your light and wisdom with us today. You've reminded us that healing isn't always about fixing. Sometimes it's about remembering what's already inside of us. And that's exactly what Shining Out is all about, bringing you more of who you are and more of what the world needs. For anyone ready to explore the vibrant possibilities of their own inner world, you can connect with Gina through the links in our show notes and experience the colorful clearing method or a full spectrum neuroscene for yourself. Until next time, keep shining. I want to take a quick moment to share something that I've been pouring my heart and my time into. It's an app called EpitoMe. Think of it as your one-stop shop for wellness, not just another app with tips or trackers, but a full dashboard for your best life. Inside, you'll find curriculum, pre-recorded content you can return to anytime, journaling tools, and even AI-mediated coaching that grows with you and helps you schedule all of this self-care into your daily life. It brings together the habit and ritual creation, integrated calendaring, and mindset practices all in one place. My vision is simple. I don't want you juggling 5 different apps and a dozen notebooks just to stay on track. EpitoMe is designed to be a central hub that ensures you don't just set wellness goals, you live them. It's everything you need to stick with the practices that transform you into the best version of yourself, curated, cohesive, and right at your fingertips. So keep listening as this dream unfolds, because soon you'll be one of the first to test it. Thank you.